Alright guys, Tactical Beer back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday so far. Today I want to talk about this Zer0 to London roster change. Really interesting one, given this was a move that I imagine a lot of people expected, including myself, to see at the beginning of the season, not halfway through it. Of course, moving from the Subliners to the Royal Ravens in place of Zer0. Very interesting changes, a number of things to talk about here, and I am intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. Tomorrow, the Seattle home series begins. If you haven't yet joined the Draft Buff Draft Royale Fantasy League, the link to that will be down in the description box below and also the pinned comment. Let's hop right into some other things just to mention here. Of course, Florida also looking to make a change right now. Intel Call of Duty said a couple of days ago here, Crone over there said Mutineers are looking at Awakening and Hollow. So interesting situation. Then I think Parasite, as we'll look at right at the end of the video, confirmed that he's going to be teaming with Hollow on, I believe, the UYU squad. Actually, you can look at this one right here. So UYU with Hollow, Dylan Sells, Drazza and Rex. And that means that Awakening looks like he is headed to the Mutineers. And we see this tweet from Mutineers yesterday. Anyone awake right now? Looks like that is imminent, but I do think the more interesting change is Zer0 to the London Royal Ravens. So let's discuss that today. Today, Trey departs from the Subliners, that being yesterday, to begin a new chapter. We wish Trey the best and will always be grateful for him for being a part of our team. So very interesting how this situation worked out. The Subliners start the season in a very poor manner. Zer0 said, look, I didn't really get on with the rest of the guys in game. I get on with them outside the game and are friends with them, but in game there was a bit of friction between me and Temp especially, and it just didn't work out for the rest of the team. They get rid of him, bring in Happy, which already, like, that's almost a disrespectful change at that point. Then they trial Center. Now Mack is in the team and they're making progress right now. A lot of players on Zer0's caliber are very good players that have won championships over the years. They're sitting on the bench right now in a difficult spot. We talked about Gunless just a couple of days ago, right? Enables managed to find his way onto a pro team. You've got Saints, Lacefield, these guys, you know, Aches, of course, over the LHE that are sitting on the bench, struggling to find a route. At the start of the season, Trey says that, look, he had an offer from the London Royal Ravens. He turned it down to explore this Subliners option, try and, you know, make his own path, I suppose, not just always playing with the European players, which a lot of people have done for a long period of time. And I do respect that. And he says that, look, he doesn't regret any of these decisions that he has made over the course of the year. However, the opportunity comes up for him to go to London and he snaps at it, right? Given that if you're a competitor, if you want to win, you're going to do anything you can to try and get yourself back in that position. And I think he says, as with Enable situation, right, this like period of time that he's been off has allowed him to focus on his own personal game, what he can bring to a team, like where he might have gone wrong in previous times, improving as an individual, and, you know, stepping back and thinking, how can I be a better teammate, right? And supposedly over the first few days of him scrimming with the London squad, they have at least much improved in terms of their communication, right? And that is the interesting thing with this Zer0 move. A lot of people would say that Trey has typically been the best in the assault rifle role, and yes, he's had the most success in the main AR role. So let's go on to this tweet from London. He's coming home. We're delighted to announce Zer0 as the newest member of the London Royal Ravens squad. There's a lot of players on this team now, first of all. But Zer0, a lot of people would mention, and rightfully so, that he's had the most success when he has been a main assault rifle. You look back at the Splice, Infinite Warfare team is really the memorable one. Him on the NV4, best AR in the game for a time, winning MVP at that event, dropping ridiculous numbers with the NV4 in hand. So, you know, that's what most people remember. However, he's used an SMG a lot in the World War II days when he was on the PPSH. Red Reserve probably got even better as a squad than in the early Black Ops 4 days and late Black Ops 4 on the FaZe clan team, using the Sorg at times, Grapple Sorg even. I think you can make a case that Zer0 is the most versatile player in the world right now, and has been in Call of Duty for a couple of years, especially what he's able to do. You could make a case for maybe a player like Priester, who's did it on the FaZe clan team last year especially, but Zer0's got to be up there in terms of most versatile players who are also very good at pretty much any role they put themselves to. So I'm excited to see this prospect. The interesting part, of course, is he's going to be running a very fast-paced SMG. He's going to be right up there with Dylan on this squad because Zer0 is leaving the team. So first of all, let's look at who should have left the team, if anyone, and I do think the Royal Ravens did need a change. It was pretty clear that, yes, they're losing relatively close series to some of the best teams in the game, getting pretty unlucky with the brackets they're drawing, but at the end of the day, they're not winning the close games in the hardpoint, they're not clutching up when it matters, and at the same time, they're also not really taking upset series that you might expect them to. Decent squads, but they're never going to win a championship at the current level that they were sitting at, so I think making a change makes sense. Now, in terms of making a change to the roster, Obviously, Wuskin's not going anywhere. I don't think you can put Dylan anywhere. I do think he's the most talented SMG in the European region. I think you could still argue right now, and is arguably being left out to dry somewhat by the way the rest of his squad are playing. Can't get rid of Wuskin, obviously, and Scraps is very good. So the core of Wuskin, Scraps, and Dylan has to stay. Then you're looking at the fact that they wanted Nasty in the roster. They've got Shawnee instead. Not ideal. And then we've got Zer0 on the team. So it's interesting, right? Clearly, Zer0, statistics-wise, hasn't been the player that he once was, like 0.85 so far this season. Not really characteristic numbers for Zer0 than what we've seen in previous seasons. And of course, the engagement's significantly lower than the likes you see at Dylan, right? Who's just absolutely frying out here at 1,000 kills plus, with more deaths, but still a better KD than Zer0 is putting up. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, I think that Zer0 could be argued he's the one to go. Then again, it's the replacement where people are having questions. And if you want to think about aggression and what makes some of the best teams in the game so good, it's that really fast-paced aspect of the squad. And Zer0, I think, can bring that. I do think he can play a very fast-paced SMG to a good pace. Yes, he's had most of his experience has been in an AR role, or not most of his experience, but most of his success has been an AR role. A lot of people would argue, but I think he can definitely make this work. Question is, right, if you were to take, say, Shawnee out and put Zer0 in, and have Zer0 also playing a pretty aggro SMG role, then this team gets really quick. I guess the problem with that is that Wuskin's a pretty damn slow assault rifle, and then you've got Dylan, Zer0, and Zer0 just way ahead of the rest of the guys. Maybe it's better to have a little bit more balance in pace, but Zer0 right up with there, Dylan at the front. And also what he talked about, I watched a podcast recently or just yesterday with him with Lando on the Off the Break NVTV stuff they've got going on there. And he said that one of the main issues for this London squad was their communication, right? And Zer0 is obviously known as not being the best communicator on the squad by any means. And I think that Trey could definitely bring something to the table in that aspect. He's a very vocal player, especially in talking about the game outside of the game, but also communicating in-game. So for a number of reasons, I think bringing Zer0 back to London is obviously a great move for them. I think Zer0 is one of the most talented players we've ever seen in Europe. You could argue he's the best player we've ever had from the European region. Zer0's up there, MattG's up there for sure. Bance is even up there off his accomplishments, what they've done at Champs in the past. But Zer0 off his achievements and his versatility and his pure gun skill and communication, all this kind of stuff, you can make an argument he's the best player to ever come out of the European region over a number of years. So bringing him to London obviously makes sense. It's the particular change Zer0 for Zer0 that some people do have question marks with, and I think you can make a credible case that it is not necessarily on paper absolutely superb. Then again, I do like the move in theory. I think bringing in Zer0 into the starting lineup should work. As Zer0 says here, he was playing on Joe's account. Joe was frying in scrims from when I was watching, and Arstees then replies to this one, says, Joe is weak, bro. You bring the best out of that slippery pickle, Dylan. And this is one of the key points, right? Like, if you can get the most out of Dylan and have someone who's gonna be able to somewhat coach Dylan to some degree in terms of how to play, be a more vocal character than Zer0 was on the squad, and get a Dylan up to like a 1.1 or playing in a way that he's not just throwing his life away, but he's using his incredible gun skill to the best of his ability and doing the most amount of damage on the map, then you're really going to get a lot of distance out of this squad. So I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Supposedly the servers yesterday were not doing well, so this team hasn't really got that much chance to practice, right? And we look at this upcoming weekend at the Seattle home series, and we see that a lot of these teams right now that have made changes, likes of Chicago, Florida, supposedly are going to have a difficult time getting a lot of practice in. So I'm intrigued to see how they do this weekend. In theory, I do like the Zer0 move. I think it makes sense. The particular Zer0 for Zer0 move makes sense when you look at it from the angle of communication and that aspect of the team. Then again, a lot of people would argue that it maybe should have been Zer0 for Shawnee. You can also make a credible case for that. Then again, I do honestly think Shawnee's a really talented player. Whenever I watch him, it seems like he's frying, even though it doesn't really show up on the scoreboard. So I do really like Shawnee as a player. I just think that in the current meta, when you look at a team like London now with the names of those players on that team, compared to a team like Atlanta or Dallas or one of the best teams in the game, it doesn't make sense, doesn't make as much sense, right? However, I do have confidence that Zer0 can run an SMG at a really fast pace to a really high level. Whether Shawnee's going to be able to effectively support, that remains the question. But in the scrims the last few days, they have been doing much better from what I've been able to see, with Joe on the team now probably going to be calling himself Zer0 as it's all now confirmed. So this is how things look this weekend at the Seattle home series. We have Royal Ravens, LAG in Group A. Of course, the other group has some difficult teams in there, Chicago and Co. But this is where things get interesting because they play the LAG first. If they don't win this, that's a pretty bad sign given LAG are, well, I'm pretty sure they're renowned to be the worst team in the league right now. Seattle aren't too far above them, right? So Ravens and Surge both making recent changes. Definitely a lot of people expecting that Seattle could be significantly better with enabling the squad. My only worry is really with that change is that, look, their search and destroy may go down the drain, as we've seen with enables teams in the past. So my expectations are probably that London and New York should win, and then of course you've got the interesting matchup of London versus New York, because Zer0, being on the New York Subliners, getting benched off that team. Obviously, you know, it's not like he holds any grudges necessarily against the guys on the Subliners, but it would still be nice to beat them, right? Given that they've decided for whatever reason that you're not a worthwhile piece of the team, they're going to move you to the bench with no option for you to return. And then you go over to London and you beat them the first event back with very little practice, right? That would be a pretty good statement for Zer0 to say. I'm sure he's very motivated to try and get to that point if they do end up playing them. So I think Royal Ravens have a pretty good group to get out of here. Even if they do lose to the Subliners or whoever, they still have a decent shot to get out the group regardless. It's still possible, right? So yeah, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. Tomorrow I'll discuss my predictions going through Group B as well and how I see the entire event transpiring, because with a lot of roster changes, it's kind of difficult to predict, but I do think long term, especially because the Royal Ravens maybe are not even just thinking this change for this season, they're also thinking next season, right? We lock Zer0 up, no one is going to have a chance as long as we do pretty well, and Zer0 wants to stay for the rest of the season, to get Zer0 off our team, and maybe we can even build around him as part of the core roster for next season, especially if it plays maybe with a little bit more of an AR focus, so you don't have to worry too much about having super fast-paced SMGs. As I said, I still think Zer0 can handle it. Like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. Thanks for watching, stay safe, I'll see you next time.